Getting ready to record this video, it occurs to me I have a bunch of pictures on my computer, but I don't always have pictures of what I want to talk about. It'd be really easy to just grab a picture and decide I'm going to talk about that. But the way these ideas are coming, it's, oh, this is the idea I want to talk about. And then lots of times, like the magic door one, I don't have a picture of a magic door. So I went on Google and I spent 15 minutes looking for them. That's a waste of time for me right now. So I'm just going to find, a couple images that work, and you might not get a lot of visual variety, but that's fine from my point of view. I know you would probably prefer it. We were talking about the Hoach, and we learned a little bit about how the Hoach first started and how, it has barely changed since then. But that's not practical. It doesn't actually help me with figuring out what am I going to do if the players want to go to the Hoach. And that's kind of like what the sandbox game is there to help me with. As I mentioned at the very beginning in sandbox video, um, this sandbox idea is supposed to be the impetus for me to actually create more. And what's really awesome is that I'm not actually going to create anything extra in this video, but I am going to talk about it. When the PCs do say, hey, we're going to go explore the Hoach on Tuesday night, I then have a deadline that I have to meet if we're going to have a game. And so that sort of puts the pressure on me. I'm a big procrastinator, but right when it comes down to the minute, I'm either going to make it up right before the game or I'm going to wing it while I'm at the game. But at least then, I'll have actually created the details and set them down. Waiting until the game means I better be really good at what I'm doing or else it can suck, but that's fine. So what we're talking about this time is inside the Hoach. My idea was always to have the Hoach act like a real cave. And I did a lot of reading on the kinds of features that arise in a real cave, like the Hoach, which is a limestone cavern that was carved by a river. And it's still a wet cave, a live cave. That means way down in the depths of the Hoach, there is still that running water that is carving out further caverns way down in the depths. Up top, though, it's more of a dry cave. It's no longer changing that way without the intervention of living creatures. So when the PCs first started exploring the Hoach, I looked up kinds of things that they've got to be worried about. Cave-ins, the floor giving way beneath them because the river had carved out a passage beneath where they were, and the floor was thin. Being able to break through the walls, which is not a really big thing in caves, but it's a possibility. Stalagmites and stalactites just causing trouble, getting in the way. Passageways in these natural cave systems are not nice, neat corridors. Dungeons and Dragons is going to require you to make them a little bit nicer and neater when you're actually like running combats. You don't want to have the players actually, like in a real cave system, get on their stomach and slide underneath a wall, in the middle of a fight. That's not so fun. But just having that as background information, explaining to the players, these are the kinds of things that your characters are having to do. They're having to climb down these steep inclines with, no sure footing. They're having to squeeze in these crevices in the wall or these cracks along the floor in order to get to the next cave. So if you're hoping to run all the way back to the entrance, if you get in trouble, that's not going to happen. You're still going to have these kinds of dangers to get back out. So be careful, be cautious, be wary, and it just sets the tone. Now, one of the things I want to have in the Hoach, as we see here, I made this picture bigger from last time because I noticed it was a little bit difficult to read unless you watched in high quality full screen. Real caves have these special fun little names for different rooms and areas inside the cave. Some of them are descriptive, like the sinkhole, the bottomless pit. Some of them are descriptive, but not really. Like waterfall is probably not an actual waterfall. It's probably stonework inside the cave that looks like a waterfall coming down off the wall. But I wanted to add these kinds of little rooms into the game. I have, of course, these and a couple other of those maps I showed in the last video have descriptive little names for places. And keep in mind Crystal Forest, because I actually found a picture for that. So, and then there's an old second edition Dungeons and Dragons boxed set adventure called Night Below, and there's a cavern system in there, and those caves had little names. And I remember specifically there was one where there were egg-shaped rocks. There were like stalagmites, and at the top, instead of coming to like a point, they were egg-shaped on top. And I just remember that detail sticking out. I can go back and look in that book and mine it for ideas. Once again, the number one rule of being a dungeon master is steal good ideas. There's no reason to let good ideas go to waste. So that's one. I like this Grotto of Lost Treasures, and even if this was a D&D adventure, you come in through the entrance, and the treasure's all the way back here, and it's hidden behind this bottomless pit. Isn't that awesome? This is just like, if I had to run the Hoach right now, like someone showed up and held a gun to my head and said, I want to run this adventure right now, I would just use this map, just as it is. And I would put some goblins wandering in through these halls, and this would be like right here, and right here is where they would live, and then the treasure would be back here. It'd be cool. This is another one. This one's going to be incredibly difficult to read. Even for me, it's difficult to read, and I have it full size. But this was an adventure someone had written for some kids, and I don't think it was D&D specifically, but it was a role-playing game. And this one just has a bunch of the other rooms. Like this one's called the Red Cavern. This one I think says the Burning Room. Even I can't read these. The Rock Lizard Nest, the Water Cavern, the Twisting Tunnel, the White Hallway, the Yellow Corridor, the Narrowing Tunnel. So again, this is just a nice little picture. It's got a bunch of ideas in it that I can just steal. Like if a name hits me, I just like the name the Red Cavern. I can use that on the maps of the Hoach. And when the players arrive there and they're like, well, why is, I wonder what the Red Cavern looks like. Well, it probably looks like this, which also might be called the Crystal Forest. I found this picture the other day. I don't remember what I was looking for online. Oh, this was what I saw when I was looking for the rock and ice pillars for that video. This came up, and it actually does have these pillars right here. But I just like how this entire room is filled with these sharp-looking crystals. I'm going to bet that they're worthless when you get into that room. You might be able to find a few with a good search check that are worth something and then take them back to town and sell them. Or someone might ask for them when they find out that you have them, or heard that you found this cave. They might want some, and so they hire you to head out there. And that gives the PCs a place to go and a thing to do, and when they get back, they get some money. So if they're having trouble, they don't have an impetus for it. Even if another set of players, like if you were running an actual sandbox game with different groups, if one set of players finds the red cave and then comes back, maybe this guy hires the other set of players to go find it as well and grab a bunch of crystals for him for magic spells or what have you. And I'm also betting that if you get a fight in this cave and you accidentally, like right here, it looks like a ledge right in through here, get knocked off that ledge and fall on these, I bet you they do damage. I bet they look really sharp. And maybe they're not that brittle. Maybe they're hard like stone or hard like a rock rather than brittle like mica. Yeah, this is all mica. Feel free to just smash it up against the side of a stone. Or another idea that just occurred to me, if you see the way that there's actual like rock here, and here, and here, and on the walkway, but it looks like these crystals are climbing up it, maybe these crystals are some sort of invasive elemental species, basically like plants from the elemental plane of Earth. But because it's the elemental plane of Earth, instead of actually being plant life, they're crystals and rocks. And so somewhere deeper in the dungeon, like back down this way, there is a giant special magical red crystal with superpowers. And the energies emitting from it are causing this invasive crystal species to grow outward through that portion of the dungeon. So as the PCs are heading down the Hoach, they'll find a couple of these things growing in a hallway, and as they keep going down that tunnel and through those caverns in that direction, it becomes more and more common until you end up in a place like this where the whole cave is just teeming with it. And that would be a good clue that, hey, maybe further down here there's something special. Or it could be, yeah, and then you could even have like a spot in this where suddenly they disappear completely, and you're like, hey, we were just surrounded by these red crystals and now there's nothing. maybe some sort of ooze that lives in this dungeon eats these crystals, and so it's cleaned the walls of them, and you don't see them anymore. And then, like, there's a ruby gel. I know that that's a type of monster in Fate. You could easily make up that, and it's basically some sort of this ooze monster that eats these red-colored crystals. Maybe gets some sort of special power along with it. Um, I think the ruby gels in Fate launch lightning attacks at you, but or there's always one of these guys. There you go. I have now created, just by rambling for 10.5 minutes, um, something that I can definitively add to the Hoach. And welcome to the Mythos Red Cavern Crystal Cave. Bye bye.